Hi.
You are.
In a working situation with other people, say myself and two other people, we have a common goal. And it takes all three of us to do things to promote the situation to be successful in the situation. How do I stay focused with the idea, the joy of the idea of following my passion and bliss?
Good.
Well,
you're answering your question within your question, and that is why we are applauding here, because you're what we were wanting to say to you before you said it, before we could get to it, was if you will let your common goal that the three of you are reaching for take a second seat to your personal goal of joy, then things come into alignment pretty well. But then you neatly tucked that in there already because you understand that that really is what you are reaching for. Does it feel to you that you have to give up one for the other?
Well, when I consider other factors of, my coworkers, their lifestyles, for instance, one of my coworkers, she's married and has 3 children. And when it comes to our schedule, there are so many things that she says no to because she has
other things
to
do.
And so
what does she bring to the party? In other words, what makes her a good co-creative partner?
Well, we started this vision together, and it's been 14 years now, and she's
part
a
of
driving force.
She cares about it. She has maturity about it. She brings stability to it. In other words, she gives much more to it than she takes from it. So it's really worth putting up with her schedule. Yes.
Absolutely. Because at the same time, understanding and respecting, her other things that she has to tend to. But when it's time for us to work, she's a driving force as well as I am. And when she says no, that she can't do something, which, there's these things that we have to do to promote the situation to make it successful for ourselves.
Well, I think what happens is, it's a human trait, and we'd like you to sort of get over it, all of you, is you put too much emphasis on action and on scheduling, and not enough emphasis on individual aligning with source energy, which is really what makes things happen.
Okay.
In other words, the very creativity that you're talking about comes from alignment. So, for example, you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You have a great idea. Things are going well. Creativity is flowing. You want to get together so that you can specifically co-create. You try to set a rendezvous, and something keeps happening. Sometimes she says yes, and then other things take precedent.
Right.
That's the most annoying thing. And so you're all planning to rendezvous, and then for whatever reason she can't do it. And then what happens is your attention to that and your annoyance with it is really the culprit that shuts down the creativity, because creativity will flow around you. We want to find some words that you can practice feeling, because it will soothe all of this. This is easily soothed, by the way. There is not a rigid formula for creativity to flow. It flows through the crack of least resistance. So creativity flows easily around a busy schedule. It flows easily around having a lot of different irons in the fire, but it has a hard time flowing through resentment or through blame or through ill will. And so her busyness won't hinder you, but your irritation at her busyness will hinder you.
Okay.
And so what you want to do is just not let it get to you. Just keep saying things like, well, we always figure a way, and it will come at the perfect timing. And something that is very often said by Jerry or Esther when it feels like they hit a snag is, this is probably here for a reason. We're probably being shunted off in the direction of something that's even more valuable. And so that's a very good attitude to take, because we can feel harmony all around. Mm-hmm. Your hearts are all in the right place. Mm-hmm. And you certainly would not want to deprive her of the other things that she wants to do, because a lot of her creativity is even flowing from that. Right. A lot of the creativity that she gives to your project is fueled from the pleasure that she receives from that part of her life. Mm-hmm. And you're also not wanting to make her feel guilty. Right. Or uncomfortable about what she can't do. You don't ever want her to feel like you're making her make choices, because there's plenty of her to go around, mm-hmm. as there is you. And by giving her that leniency, you also give yourself that leniency that you can have other aspects of your life. There is one sure thing that will kill any project, and that's the belief that I must give myself utterly to it. Mm-hmm. It is the death of marriage. It is the death of work environment. In other words, to say, I must deprive myself of other things that are meaningful while I give my attention to you, only goes a short while, and then before you know it, you come to hate this thing that was giving you life before.
Okay.
Yes.
My other question is relationships. I'm in a relationship with someone who actually turned me on to this information. And
oh, then he's a blessed being.
Yet he's so resistant to growing with me in this information, which is fine. But he has a lot of resistance, and so in the relationship as well.
Well, isn't it? Don't you find it common that someone who needs something is often attracted to it? In other words, he is reaching for solution, even though not really applying it. Mm-hmm. And everyone could say that about themselves, couldn't they?
Right.
Yes.
How do I, I'm okay with that.
Good, because
however,
everyone has their own path, and we are playing with you, but we really want to be clear that this is not the only path to well-being. Well-being is, and there are endless paths. This is just one of them.
How do I find the feeling place, or the knowing and the trust in knowing and really feeling that all is well in this relationship?
Well, we hear a different question there, and we're going to speak it. And it sounds to us like what you're saying is, how do I know that this relationship will turn out to be the end-all to end-all to end-all relationships, and that this is my lifetime partner that I'm looking for, and that I'm not wasting my time right now? Did we hit it? Yes. Precisely.
Well, I mean, he has so much resistance, and I've been practicing this information enough now to know, okay, just chill out. And, I think that's the reason he's still around.
Well, here's what we would do. We would say to ourselves on a regular basis, clearly there is something here, because here we are.
Right.
Clearly, we are the answers to each other's vibrational offering. Mm-hmm. So clearly, we are, at least for now, perfect for one another. Mm-hmm. Now, the question that you're asking is, but we came together, and now I know I am vibrationally shifting. And what if I vibrationally shift out of range with this person?
Yeah, I think I am.
And we say, if you, or when you vibrationally shift out of range, that person goes away and another person comes in. In other words, law of attraction takes care of all of that. You do not have to orchestrate it. Now, if you say, oh, but there's so much, I want to hold myself in vibrational harmony, then we say, then give your undivided attention to what is, mm-hmm. good and bad, mm-hmm. and what is will remain in your experience. But never be afraid of reaching for the thoughts on a myriad of subjects that are pleasing to you, because there is a very powerful potential that your partner will evolve with you. And in any event, you have to win. We never encourage anyone saying about anyone or anything, you are my final answer.
Okay.
What we encourage instead is, you are just right for now, and let's make hay while the sun shines. In other words, let's have a glorious time and see what comes of it. And let's not hold each other responsible for future growth. In other words, let's just be who we are and be true to who we are and see if our vibration continues to match up. We like this question, especially on the heels of what we just talked about earlier, about families of consciousness, about people coming together because they are vibrationally harmonious. And we want to say to you that there is so much potential for wonderful relationships in many places that you never even look. And in the same way that we were talking to someone earlier about make any decision and then make that decision right, we're not kidding you. You could look right here and focus upon those things that make you feel good, and you could make this relationship be all that you would ever want as an evolving person. Now, we love the question that you're asking, because here's what usually happens in relationships. Most people feel incomplete without a partner. And so they're looking for someone to, in some way, sometimes it's large, sometimes it's small, fill the void that exists. People will say things like, "You complete me." And we want to say, "Too bad. It would have been better if you had both been complete before you came together." But nevertheless, often people say, "We are better together than we are apart," and that's fine because, of course, you evoke from each other and you create together. But if there is a big sense of filling a void, if you really feel incomplete before you bring a partner, then often what happens is the partner you bring has those same missing pieces, and then those missing parts are just amplified by your union, and then all that happens is it becomes a platform from which you become clearer about what you really want, which is a good thing also. What we would really encourage relative to relationships is that your stance be something like, law of attraction always brings me something that is a reflection of who I am and how I'm vibrating. And so anyone who comes to me helps me understand right where I'm offering my vibration. So the parts that please me, I'm going to do even more, and the parts that don't please me, I'm going to give even less attention to. And under those conditions, two eternally incomplete, because you always are incomplete. We're kidding about anybody ever being complete. Two happily incomplete people come together and then enhance one another's growth experience. That's what's ideal. So when you worry, and that's really what you're talking about here, you're saying he ran across the Abraham material, so he was obviously seeking, and then he, in your words, turned me onto it, and it has had a very beneficial effect on my life experience, but now he doesn't seem to be doing the work or making the effort, and I'm afraid, we hear you say, that I'm moving on beyond him, and I don't want to leave this person behind. And we say, don't worry about it. Don't ever try to measure the pace that anyone else is offering. Esther has said to us, as she hears us talk about Jerry and Esther and about how vibrationally compatible they are from a non-physical inner being standpoint. And in the early days of hearing that from us, Esther argued, then why do we have different opinions on things? Why do we see things differently or want things differently? And we said, if you were identical, only one of you would have needed to come forth. In other words, the power and value you add to each other is that you bounce off of each other and you cause an evoking of clarity. And so it's lovely when people come together, like the two of you, who are vibrationally enough in sync that it's mostly really good. And then you just constantly work the bugs out and you give each other an opportunity to discover who you really are. We do not encourage finding the partner that you consider to be the perfect partner. And when you say something like, oh, just looking at you or just being with you makes me utterly happy, because it's really a lazy way to create. It's like saying, I found this perfect situation and now I just observe it and that's it for me. And we say, none of you really want that. You want that soft but subtle, not so dramatic that it blows you back into the negative zone, but soft and subtle differences that keep you asking and keep you wanting and keep you reaching and keep you fresh. So what you want to say to your partner is, thank you for not being perfect, because in your imperfection we can both grow. Thank you for not being perfect in every way, because now I get to use my own guidance system and I get to reach for things that feel better. Any lover or any mother who feathers anybody's nest does a terrific disservice, because you are then ill prepared to be out there in the world where there are so many vibrational offerings or options. I
say that to him, and it seems as though he gets upset because I understand the information. And when we're in interaction with each other, if there's an issue, and I'm living from where I understand now, that bothers him.
Well, do you feel...
Don't come telling me about Abraham stuff. You know, it's like, well, don't come try to use those principles on me.